Good evening. It's a beautiful summer's evening. Summer's arrived in England. I can't believe last night I was sat with a blanket on my lap on the sofa, and then today it's 25 degrees. It's absolutely beautiful. Had a lovely day out today with some dear friends, and I don't know how many steps we walked, but this is hot hair. So when I get hot, this is the bush that results from it. Anyway, so I just thought I'd bring you with me on another forest walk, and it's absolutely gorgeous here in the New Forest. Let me just turn you around so you can see, and you can hear the bird song. It's gorgeous. So anyway, I just wanted to share the happy news that my son, who's the youngest, the baby of the five, has got a job today. Now, he went travelling in January, and he's only just recently come back. He went to Vietnam, Thailand and Japan. And so he's come back and he's got himself a job. And that made me think, which is wonderful, that made me think how different our kids are, because I had to laugh because my daughter, who's in London and who's 23, she's finished uni and she's been looking for work. She wants to be a music producer, but of course, in order to get into that profession, you have to, do other work first to pay the bills. So she's been apparently looking for a job, but I asked her, okay, so how many jobs have you applied for? And anyway, it turns out that she's applied for one, and that job is feeding penguins in London Zoo. So they are so different, and it really did make me laugh because that's so her. And in fact, she has worked at London Zoo before. She was an elf at Christmas, so it's right up her street. But they are so different, aren't they? I don't know if your kids are all different. If they have, some academic, some are more creative. And isn't it just lovely as they grow up into adults that, they really find their identities and they start to take on the sort of the adult personalities of the people that they'll be. And sorry, I've got to be careful because there's loads of tree roots here and I don't want to suddenly disappear. So they're just so different. So I thought, isn't that an interesting topic to talk about? Because it's, as they're growing up, we really very much sort of direct them, don't we? We sort of not control their lives, but we certainly have a huge part to play. And we have so much pressure on us, don't we, as mums, to be these sort of perfect mothers. And I think that's increased. I think more so probably for, my daughter-in-law and son and their daughter, their generation, maybe than our generation. I'm 59, so I don't know how old you are, but if your kids are sort of young adults as well now, then you'll probably have gone through that stage where your school put lots of demands, doesn't it, on the kids, but of course those demands are actually on the parents, because prime example, World Book Day. So I can remember one of my sons, I think it was this second son, who's now nearly 28, he said to me, like, that morning, oh mum, it's World Book Day. World Book Day became a thing, I don't know, I think by son number 2, certainly not son number 1, that wasn't a thing then. So I just had this moment of panic, and I don't know if you've been through this, but it's like mornings are chaos when you've got young families, aren't they? So to suddenly hear that it's World Book Day, I remember I went to the first aid box, because I'm a nurse, it was always fairly well replenished. And I grabbed the biggest bandage and I wrapped him round in this bandage, just spun him round, wrapped it, till he was like a mummy, and told him he was Mr. Bump and to go to school as that book character. And all the other children were in like perfect outfits, from some classic novel. Anyway, so we do our best, but there's no such thing as being a perfect mum, is there? I think it's just a myth. I think those mums at the school gates who seem to have it all together, do they really, or I don't know. We do our best. But as they get older, it's sort of harder, I think, to start to lessen that control over them and let them be the young adults that they're sort of shaping up to be. And I think from teenage years, that's certainly the case, isn't it? They start to really want their independence and have their identity. And that's the point when I think it's almost like a transformation, a metamorphosis of us, of being this tightly holding of the apron strings to letting them go and make their own mistakes. But I'm not saying that that's easy. I found that really hard. I don't know about you. Sorry, I'm just climbing over a massive tree. And I found that hard to sort of let go. And I still do now, really, because even though they are adults, I still have to sort of pinch myself sometimes and say, right, no, or bite my tongue more like, and not sort of, question them too much. What time will you be home? What did you eat today? All those things that we have years and years and, decades of being responsible for with them from when they're little, from when they're newborn to when they leave home. But that doesn't stop you worrying, does it? When they leave home, it makes it worse. It makes it worse because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know where they are. So, but thinking how different they are. So the prime example again was my son, as I said, just got back from travelling. So he is the super responsible one, very, very sensible, and the one I probably trust most. Love them all, but he probably is the most sensible. So he, before he went, insisted that I put a tracker on his phone. Which, was fantastic. I didn't have to do it covertly, like ninja style. I just did it willingly. He asked me to do it, and I did. So I could see exactly where he was over those sort of 4 months. And I did occasionally, very often, ping it and see where his location was. And I remember one day I rang him because I thought, oh, well, he's there, wherever it was. I think he just landed at Vietnam. And I didn't realise he'd literally only just landed. Like literally, they touched down. He turned his phone on and there's a message from me and it said, welcome to Vietnam. I hope you had a good flight. Now, I didn't know he'd literally just touched down. I thought he'd been there for a few hours or even the night before. So, of course, he gets this message. The minute it touches down, he turns his phone on, like I'm watching him. And I remember he phoned me that night and he said, Mum, I know I said put a tracker on, but this is like a little bit too far. How did you know? My plane had just touched down. It was pure fluke, but it was funny. And then you've got the other extreme with our daughter, who is the creative one, the penguin feeder at London Zoo, although she didn't get the job. And I remember she phoned when she was 21, so a couple of years ago. She went to Switzerland to stay for New Year with some friends. And she got the train back, the mountain train back. And we got a call from her. And she said, Mum, I'm on a mountain with my suitcase and the train has stopped. I think there'd been a tragic incident on the train line. And she said, the train has stopped. It's put us all off and there's no more trains coming and it's snowing and my phone's about to die. So can you imagine the stress of getting that call, from your daughter? And of course, you think, don't you, that she's probably, knowing her, she's probably stood there in a little t-shirt and a short skirt or whatever she's wearing, totally inappropriate for the weather. And of course, as a mum, you're always thinking, are they dressed warm? Have they eaten well? So all I know is that she's on a mountain in Switzerland with no phone signal, so I can't phone her. And she didn't know how to get to the airport and her flight was going that evening. So ensued the whole day of trying to sort of think what we could do. So I remember I phoned the airport and spoke to British Airways, who she was flying with. And I said, can you just tell me if my daughter has arrived at the airport because I don't know where she is? And they said no, because she's an adult, this isn't a proper adult, this is my daughter. She doesn't adult very adulty. Anyway, they wouldn't tell me. They wouldn't tell me if she got to the airport, if she was safe. They said, all you can do is phone the embassy. So then, at the time, she had a banking app that was connected to a kind of a Monzo card or something, and I used to put a bit of money on and things like that for her. So it suddenly pinged that she'd made a charge on it, and I could see it was a cafe, and it was at the airport. So I knew she was safe, but those few hours were just hell. But, it's about, we don't stop worrying because they're adults. There's not some magic switch, is there, that goes, okay, they're adults, you don't need to worry anymore, they're fine. It's sort of like you just have all these scenarios still going through your mind, don't you, of all these terrible things that have happened, when of course they're absolutely fine. They're thriving. It's just us. It's just the mother in us, isn't it, that, wants to make sure they're okay at all times. And I don't think that will ever change. And I know my mum says to me, that she still feels the same, even though, my brother is 60 and I'm 59. She still worries and she still calls. And wants to know we're home if we've been away somewhere. So I think this is something that mums always are going to feel. And it's a very special bond. And it's, it's a worry that we are very lucky to have in a way, aren't we? We're very lucky to have, the children to cherish. And, I'm very mindful that, we're blessed to have healthy kids and, they're making their own way in the world, making their own mistakes. Let them make their own mistakes because that's how they learn. But me saying that doesn't make it any easier. And I know that you'll understand if you're a mum too, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying is that we know we should let them make mistakes, but we're not going to stop, are we? Texting them at like 7 in the morning, are you home? All the sort of different things that we do as mothers just to make sure that our little chicks are safe and well. And I don't really want that to change. They might, but I don't, because, it's who we are. It's our bond that we have with them. And it's special. And long may it last. So now I'm just going to show you some of the peaceful forest.